Ladies and gentlemen, listeners, lovers, and friends, welcome back to the podcast at Two Ticks and the Dog Productions. I am your host today, Jim Fogarty. Today, Brandon is not able to join us, so we are going to have a second chair today. Kind of like we had Miss Mia on the last show. We're going to have someone else sitting in today when we sit down and talk with Cynthia Frazier, who is going to talk about CBDs. We're going to talk about all kind of stuff. We're going to talk about why THC is on Schedule 1 federally. We're going to talk about some laws, what federal laws prohibit cannabis users from doing, what state laws in the state of Ohio prohibit medical, those who are seeking medical treatment through CBD, what those laws prohibit them from doing. We're going to talk about all kind of stuff, and we're going to kind of get to the bottom of some of this and demystify what CBD is. It comes from the hemp plant, okay? It could come from the cannabis. So it has a little bit of THC, but not enough to be psychoactive, and certainly not enough to make you screen dirty for a drug test. And Cynthia does a great job talking about that. But before we get to that, because CBD is kind of like a biohacking too, I want to talk about what I want you to do today so that you can biohack tomorrow. I like energy drinks. I used to drink energy drinks that had a lot of caffeine and taurine, and I'd get like jitters and stuff, and I hated it. So I stopped drinking them. They were loaded with sugar. I want to talk about an energy drink today called Axio that I use personally that improves your mental endurance, your concentration. It's kind of like dialing in. It's weird. I don't know how to explain it. I'm still trying to find – I'm a writer. I'm trying to find words to describe how you kind of get dialed in when you drink this. It increases your physical and mental energy. You get kind of a mood boost from it. It's kind of like a nootropic. It increases your brain's resilience to stress, and it's also like a mood enhancer, really, in a way. So if you're processing a lot of information and you're trying to get a better attention span, reduces your mental fatigue and brain fog, go to biohacktomorrow.com. You can purchase this drink for $2. It's actually less than $2 a serving if you sign up for a subscription, or you can just buy it. Buy it and try it out. If you came on the show, our guests usually go with, ask them if they tried their samples. I usually give them a sample. Hey, try this out. See if you like it. Gives me a boost. Hopefully it gives you a boost too. I also want to tell you this show is sponsored by Modern Methods Brewery. Modern Methods Brewery, downtown Warren, Ohio, for those of you out of the state. If you come to Dave Grohl Alley in downtown Warren on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and you want to have some really fantastic craft microbrews, go right down the alley, go to Modern Methods. It's a blue door. Open the door up, go in, see Adam Keck, he's the owner, or see any of the fine bartenders there, and they can walk you through the paces of a beer sampler. They can walk you through the paces of what the different flavors are, what's good, what's not. They'll find a beer that you like. But be warned, when you find a beer that you like, you're going to go back because it's so good and it tastes like there's no other beer on the market that tastes like Modern Methods beers. They've got porters. They've got IPAs. They've got lagers. They've got Hefeweizens. I hope I said that right, Adam. They've got Saisons. They've got all these wonderful, wonderful – I don't like all those beers. I don't like all those different types of beers. So what's great is they got about 17 beers there. I probably like 12 of them. The other ones I don't like, it's because I just don't like that style of beer. It just doesn't fit my palate. So if you're looking for a beer to sample and find some great flavors of beers or some great styles of beers, they've got it all. Modern Methods Brewery in Warren at modernmethodsbrew.com. Modernmethodsbrew.com. You got to say you're 21 on the site. Be 21. We're not. Everybody drink responsibly and don't come down if you're underage because we'll have to ask you to leave. I won't ask you. I don't work there, but I'm sure they will ask you, please come back when you're 21 and bring your friends. It's a great place to hang out. They got games, they got music, they got all kinds of stuff. So today's episode brought to you by Modern Methods. Without further ado, let's talk to Cynthia Frazier. Welcome to the podcast, Cynthia Frazier. We have today a fantastic guest who is going to talk to us about a whole bunch of different things, but mainly about CBD. And I was walking home. I wasn't walking home. I was walking to my car after meeting a client this afternoon, and I saw a friend of mine. He was like, "Hey, Jimmy, what's up?" And I said, "Hey, what's going on?" He said, "You want to come up for a cup of coffee?" I said, "No, I can't. I've got to meet some friends of mine down at the studio to do another episode of the podcast." He goes, "Oh, what are you talking about today?" And I said, "CBD." And he said, "What is that?" Cynthia Frazier, what is that?
Yeah. So CBD is actually an oil that comes from the cannabis plant. And a lot of stigma is around CBD because it comes from the cannabis plant. Most people think, "Oh, that's marijuana. I'm not going to try that. That's illegal. I'm going to get high." That's what a lot of people think about CBD. And I think today, hopefully, we can debunk the myth of what CBD actually is.
Nice. So Cynthia brought me some CBD. I've taken CBD in the past, been taking it for a while. It's part of my biohacking. I talk about biohacking on the podcast. And we'll talk about holistic health and things of that nature. She brought me some CBD oil. I'm going to take it. Am I going to get high when I take this?
No, again, that's a huge misconception. CBD is made from the part of the cannabis plant that is not actually marijuana. It does not have THC in it. The THC that is in it is within the legal limit. It's only 0.3%, which is federally legal. And it does not have any psychoactives in it. So you won't feel that high or the... like you think you're going to see psychedelic colors and, you want to listen to Bob Marley and look at some tie-dye or something. So no, you will not get a high from it.
Bummer. I got the wrong guest on the show. I was hoping to get high and eat like a pizza and see some pink elephants and some other things. Cynthia just reminded me, listen, everybody that's listening, prodders out there, the statements made here today have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products that we're talking about are not intended to replace any medications, or any advice you hear today is not a substitute for medical advice. I am not a doctor. Cynthia does not have her medical degree. Our third chair today, usually second chair is our buddy Brandon Giovanni. Second chair today is my good friend and soon to be Cynthia's husband. Congratulations, guys, on the upcoming nuptials. Is my friend Corky Manofsky. He is a fireman and a medic. Are you still working as a medic?
I work in the EMS field. I'm on the ambulance. Yes.
Okay. So he's got...
I just stick to EMT.
EMT.
Yeah.
So he is going to be here with us today and kind of, adding to the conversation where he sees fit. And none of us are... You're not a doctor.
But I did bring my Pink Floyd soundtrack, but I guess we can't use it.
Because we're not going to see any psychedelic stuff. I thought this CBD stuff got you high. I'm just kidding. I know that it doesn't. So we're going to debunk these misconceptions, which I think is fantastic. But people, anybody that's listening, you hear what we're talking about today, do your own research. Don't take our word for it. Talk to your doctor about it. Talk to your priest or talk to whoever you need to talk to. Do your own research. We are not necessarily here to give you medical advice, but we are here to talk about CBD. So I don't really know how to approach this, so I'm just going to throw it out there. I have suffered from ulcerative colitis. I suffer from dropsies too because I'm knocking into stuff over here. I've suffered from ulcerative colitis since my early 20s. I'm 43 now. I've gone through tons and tons of treatment. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. I've been probably experimenting with CBD for about the last, 4 or 5 months as part of my biohacking and part of my holistic approach to healthcare. And I could tell you by my own personal experience, anecdotally, that I feel like it helps alleviate some of the pain symptoms associated with UC. I'm just going to say UC because ulcerative colitis is like a mouthful, and it actually sounds gross when you say it's gross to me. So I just say UC. So I've suffered from UC for a long time, and the CBD that I take seems to help. What do you know about that? Anything?
About UC specifically?
Well, no, just about like the type of chronic people who suffer from any type of chronic pain or chronic conditions. How can CBD help? I mean, what do they say about that?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of science behind what CBD can do. Not a ton of research because and up until December, it was technically a Schedule I drug. So it wasn't readily available to do research on. But I think the biggest thing to realize is that we all have an endocannabinoid system, and it kind of acts as, it fills in the receptors of your endocannabinoid system. And what that does is just like if you have that pain, the CBD is going to fill those receptors to help alleviate the pain.
And it also kind of makes you feel, I would say, like less, so for, what are they? I always forget this term. For full disclosure out there, Mom, I hope you don't feel any different about me when I say this.
She's judging.
But I have used cannabis over the course of probably 20 years, off and on. I wouldn't say I'm a heavy user, but I have used it to treat UC, to alleviate symptoms from UC. And I'll talk later on about traumatic brain injury and some things of that nature about CBD and THC being a neuroregenerative and helping reconnect the nervous system as it comes to having issues with concussive injuries, et cetera. But I have used cannabis for a while. And so this CBD does not give you, like, cannabis is associated sometimes with, obviously, I smoked some pot and I just ate a pizza and I want to sit around and veg out and I don't want to do anything, or I laugh when you smoke. It's also, it has sometimes the negative connotations associated with it. I've got anxiety or I've got paranoia. Does CBD have those same things associated with it? So you don't get high, but do you get anxiety from it or do you get paranoia from it?
No, and I think it's important to kind of explain that there are two different forms that can be made from CBD. You can have the marijuana-derived CBD, and you can have the hemp-derived CBD. The hemp-derived CBD has basically all of the THC extracted out of it. Again, besides that 0.3 legal limit. And because of that, you're not going to get the side effects that you would of the full THC. And studies have been done that said, full THC can sometimes cause you to have anxiety and cause you to freak out. Other than, hey, let's go eat a whole pizza. There have been people who will get just super anxious when they use marijuana.
Yeah, there's a lot of, obviously, taboo behind everything. And there's a lot of guys and girls in our field that, they want to do something, say, for their PTSD or their aches and pains, because in our field, you beat your bodies up, your knees, your back. I mean, we're picking up people and they're not getting lighter anymore. They're just getting bigger. And it's like, and we don't find them on a nice big open floor. It's behind a toilet or it's there. So our bodies, what I'm trying to get is, are beat up. So our guys and girls out there in this field, they want to take something, but they can't take it because we're drug tested, And so what can we do other than, going to the doctor and say, hey, just give me a painkiller. I don't want that. It's like, maybe we want to take something different. So, she was explaining, Cynthia, that, take the kind that is THC free. And so a lot of people were still like, even guys I work with, will I get busted? I don't want to get busted. And we're like, no. So she was on it for like, what, a month you were on it for, or a couple months, or you were talking about?
Yeah. So I was definitely that person when I first started looking into CBD. I was like, oh my God, that's drugs. And I think that's what a lot of people think. Oh, CBD, that's weed, that's pot. You're smoking or you're taking pot. And so the company I work with actually has a version of their CBD oil that has 0 THC in it. They completely extract it out. So if you do get drug tested, or if you are worried about failing a drug test in any way, take THC free, you'll be fine.
And you did it. You did a Facebook Live. She went and she showed the results right there. It was how many points? I don't know, whatever they do for the P test, I did all this and it came back negative, negative, negative. So right there, that actually gave confidence to people that, hey, okay, let's get that taboo out of the way. Now form your own opinion. You know what I mean? That's a big misconception right there. So,
well, I think it's interesting too, and I want to ask you. I mean, I am asking you how you got into this, but before we sat down, we talked for a little bit in the other room, and I was not surprised. So our prodders out there, they can't see. Cynthia is a very beautiful girl.
Yeah, she is. I put a ring on that baby.
No doubt.
More ice than a polar bear.
And she definitely doesn't come across as, a hippie chick. Like, you're very professional. You look very professional. She's not like, you wouldn't see her and be like, oh, that chick's smoking up. She's smoking some weed. But I also find it, we were talking earlier, I found it surprising that you don't smoke pot. You're not a pot smoker.
Never, not once.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
She went to, and she won't blow up herself, but I will. I mean, she went to a pristine Christian college, like Liberty University. You can say it. And she got her MBA at 22. Who does that?
Smart people.
MBA at 22. It took me 7 years just to get a bachelor. Thanks, Sigma Chi. But I mean, that right there says be open-minded.
So your background is, how did you get? So that's my question. So you're not a pot smoker. You're not a partier. Like, how did you get into CBD, and how did you get into this field? So I'm going to explain this, and I'm going to let you correct me if. Cynthia is a associate. She is a distributor of CBD. We can't mention the name of the company that she works for corporate compliance reasons, but she's here today to talk about this stuff. But how did you get into doing it? How did you get into being a distributor of these CBD products?
So I had a friend who actually went to Liberty University with me, so that's even kind of more funny. She had been talking about it for a couple of months, and, I did what everybody else does. I watched what she was doing and just, see what she was up to. And she was talking about all the benefits of it and how it could help with pain, it could help with anxiety, depression, all this other stuff. And I just decided I was going to try it. The reason I started trying it was because I was suffering with migraines really bad. I was at a point where I was taking, 4 ibuprofen in the morning when I woke up, because I would wake up with a headache. Then 2 hours later, I was taking Excedrin. And then 6 hours later, I was taking more ibuprofen. And I was like, nothing's working. It's not touching it. I would have days where I was just like on the couch, couldn't move, don't touch me. My head hurts so bad.
Yes, she really did say, don't touch me.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm doing this. I'm trying this CBD oil. I'm going to see if it works. Now, the first time I tried it, again, never smoked pot, thought it was weed like everybody else. I took 3 drops, which is basically nothing. Took 3 drops. My sleep was phenomenal that night. It helped me sleep so much better. Increased my drops. I think about 5 days later is when I noticed, man, I don't have migraines anymore. I would get them at least once a week. Didn't have one. And that's been since the beginning of November. Haven't had to take any medicine for a migraine or headache.
So November 2018.
Yes.
And we're November, December, January, February, March. We're 5 months. You've been taking CBD for 5 months.
Right.
And no migraine since.
No migraine since.
She was taking a lot of, over-the-counter Advil, ibuprofen. She would ask me, hey, how many can I take? Here's me, and I'm doing the math and, looking at, the bottle. Okay, we'll take 3, take 4. Okay, ease up, because what we talk about, it's so hard on your kidneys and liver. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you're just putting, and then you're looking at like 4 or 5 of those equal what, 800 milligrams. That's 1 800 milligram ibuprofen. And I think your kidneys got to flush that. So to go to this, that it's not even going through it.
That's a good point to bring up too about the liver and kidneys. With UC, typically you'll suffer with inflammation in your digestive tract, but it also inflammation in my body is a major problem. So this is why I kind of talk about biohacking, and that's helped with that. I'm trying to reduce the oxidative stress in my body because I'll have my hands, my ankles, any joints. And I don't even know, I've never really been diagnosed with arthritis. I think I probably have a little bit of arthritis. It runs in my family. But I can't take Advil or I can't take naproxen. I can't take some of these things because it jacks my stomach up. I take the CBD, it actually makes I feel good. And not only do I feel good physically, the anxiety associated sometimes with cannabis or smoking pot or THC or having, oh my gosh, I'm paranoid. I think this actually works in reverse. So I'm kind of a researcher, and the Marijuana Medical Handbook that was written by Ed Rosenthal, Dale Geringer, and Todd McUria, MD. Anybody that is listening and they want to have a book that's a guide to therapeutic use of cannabis, it talks about THC and CBD, but there's in this book on page 60, other evidence suggests that the anxiety-enhancing effects of marijuana result mainly from THC and can be counteracted by CBD. So it's funny because a lot of people are talking about CBD being something that reduces their anxiety, and maybe even they use it as a mood enhancer. And so I've noticed, along with a couple of friends of mine who we've all been kind of on this experimental path together, they take it and they're like, wow, this stuff kind of makes me feel happy in a way. Like I don't have any anxiety, or I don't have any I'm not down today. But there's still that stigma that's associated with it. How do you work to alleviate that mythology that it's CBD, it's bad, this is pot? Like, what do you do when you're talking to people about it?
One of the things that I do the most is I'll pull up a graphic. I think when people can visually see how it's separated, it helps. So you take you just put a little cannabis leaf at the top, and you make a pyramid and you split it, and you say, here's the hemp-derived CBD, here's the marijuana-derived CBD, and you explain how, you can go into the whole science of, the marijuana side uses the full stem of the plant, all the leaves, all the flowers, all that, and the hemp-derived side only uses the stem and the leaves, no flowers. The flower side of it is where you get the psychoactives and the high part of it. And I think that kind of helps. Me taking that drug test really helped. I took my dose, I think it was half an hour, 45 minutes before I went in to get this drug test done. So I knew it was in my system and got my test results back. Everything was negative.
So when you did your drug test, this wasn't just a test you got at the Rite Aid, or you went to a doctor and got, or a drug tester.
Yeah, she went to a place here in Warren.
Yeah, I went to where the city sends their employees before they get a job.
That test us. I've seen the guy I don't know how many times because we get randomed.
Yeah.
Or, if we get into any kind of accident or whatever, we have to be tested. So it's a legit, that's the guy that the county calls. That's the guy the city calls. That's the guy the townships calls. He does it. He's contracted with all that. So
that's awesome. So this was a legit drug test. Not that the ones in the Rite Aid or the local pharmacies are not legit, but this was a legit drug test where you took it and it was like, because it's funny, I have a lot of artist friends and some of their wives or significant others, they have jobs where they may be drug tested and that's their biggest hang up. My wife, she doesn't get randoms, but she gets drug tested and she's not really a partier. I mean, she doesn't smoke pot. She doesn't do any of that stuff. And so she's like, I'm nervous about taking this. My buddy's wife, I'm nervous about taking this because I don't want to. And of course, I have a little experience having worked in corporate America and worked in other places where you had to be drug tested, where I actually had an instance where I was getting a corporate job and I stopped smoking pot for a couple of weeks so I could go get this test. And I was telling you guys the story and I didn't even finish it in the conference room. The minute I walked out, or not the minute, but I got out of the drug test, hey, is everything good? My papers are signed. Yes, everything good. It was a Friday. I hadn't smoked in like 5 or 6 weeks. And as soon as
love this story.
so I went out and I had a joint. I lit it up.
To the nooch.
Yes, I smoked it up. And then that weekend, I was saying I was raking leaves. It was in the fall, and I was raking leaves. I like to smoke a little pot when I'm raking leaves.
You thought they were rocks.
Yeah. And so I did that. And then Monday, I checked my recorder, and the drug company had called that Friday. I didn't check my recorder at all, and they had called and said, "Hey, Mr. Fogarty, we have to get you back in here to sign this form because we can't release your urine to the lab." And I was like, what? So I called Monday and they said, sorry, you have to come back and pee again because that sample is no good. So I was like, holy shit, this was a really good job. And I'd been waiting for it. And so anyways, needless to say, I did a lot of research that day on how to pass a drug test. And
Find clean shampoo. Remember they had those?
Yeah, well, it wasn't a hair
whatever?
test. Yeah, it wasn't a hair test. It was a urine test. And so I learned about how many nanograms I can't remember the metabolite, but the cannabis metabolite. After your body, you get the cannabis in your system, you get the THC in your system, your body breaks it down into this metabolite. That's what you excrete in your urine. And so there are different levels of testing. There's a 50 nanogram test, which is what most people get. And then if you're going to work for like the federal government or something like along those lines, there's a 20 nanogram test. Well, I was just going to get this job in corporate America. And so I was like, I got to make sure that I can pass this 50 nanogram test. Of course, I ended up passing. That may be another episode of the podcast. But knowing that knowledge, I was explaining to my friend's wife and to my wife and to others when they say, I'd like to try this CBD. Some of it has a little bit of THC in it. Even the stuff that you sell does not have enough THC to even register on a 20 nanogram test, let alone a 50 nanogram test. And so I think it's very interesting that the stuff that you sell has 0.3% THC, which probably, first off, is not enough to get you high. You'd have to probably, so I have some of the oil in my hand right now. You probably have to drink, 100 of these things, okay, even to register on the test, and you probably still wouldn't get high off of it. So anybody out there that's listening, this may be something that is good for you if you suffer from chronic pain, or if you suffer from migraines like Cynthia did, or if you have UC like I have, that may alleviate some symptoms. But is it like a knock out your pain? Like, describe to me, and I'll describe how I feel too when I take it, but describe to us, like, what's it like? Is this something, like, if I get hit by a car and I got a broken bone, is the CBD going to help me kill my pain from my broken leg?
Okay, I have never had a broken leg on CBD, so to testify to that, I can't. Migraine-wise, though, anybody who suffers from migraines knows it's a different type of pain than if you break a finger. So I want to say that my migraine pain is completely gone. Do I sometimes feel a migraine may be coming on, yeah. My company has a topical rub that has CBD in it. So if I feel like I put on my temples, I put on my forehead, that helps. It takes it away. I know people who use it, some people with fibromyalgia. They have taken medicine from their doctor and, their medicine makes them feel worse than
Do you know what fibromyalgia is? Because nobody knows what fibromyalgia is. It's even doctors. It's just body-wide pain.
Right. So it's a nerve pain.
It's a nerve pain. They don't know where it derives. And and again, I'm not making anything out of this. I'm just her driver. Right. This isn't paying for our wedding. It's not even buying a beer. So and I was telling her, it's just ring me back in if I get too far into the story. But it's I've been going to the gym harder and harder because I was like, I don't want to look small for our wedding pictures. I don't. That's in my head. So with that said, I'm lifting and pushing heavier weight. Well, my hands were hurting. I'm telling her, I was like, God dang. I was like, my hands, they're hurting. I feel like I'm getting arthritis. And she was like, why don't you put some of that cream on it, all THC free, And I was like, all right, And again, here's me with those. Not my first thought is to go right towards Advil and ibuprofen, and I'm like, which is a quick fix or a leave, should I say, because that's actually for pains. But so I put some on my hands before I went to the gym, and I didn't know how much because it's like a little jar, and you're thinking maybe the price. I'm not getting much for that price, but and I didn't know how much to put on there, so I put some on my hands or whatever, and it started feeling better. The pain did it make it go away? Did it? I don't know. The pain was gone, the aches and pains, but I still had some of that residual hurt. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does, because I noticed I started doing the same thing. I was telling you guys earlier, and I've talked about it on other podcasts. I do jiu-jitsu a couple times a week. It's full contact. Fridays are like fight days. So Fridays, we glove up, we put a mouthpiece in, and we get it a little bit. And, you're 40 years old. It's not like I'm 20 anymore where I can abuse my body and wake up the next day and feel okay. So I noticed I'd want to drink more beer or, vodka or whatever on a Friday night to alleviate some of the aches and pains that I was getting from fighting on Friday. So I don't really drink that much anymore, and I don't really need to, because I've noticed that I've been taking CBD, which has alleviated. And again, you described it in a good way. It's not a knock out your pain. It's almost like you don't even, the aches and pains are lessened, and it's almost like you don't mind them as much. I don't know if it's hard to describe this thing that's indescribable, because if I take Advil, it'll deaden the pain, but I know shortly thereafter, it's going to cause me stomach issues, and that causes people, Advil, even people that don't have digestive issues, if you take it too much, it can cause you stomach problems. This stuff I have zero side effect from, right? So I'm kind of curious though. So I think that's a good point. And you look good. You're going to look good in your wedding pictures.
I don't know where to chime in. I'm just the guy on the couch.
I think you're doing great. But I'm curious, before you started selling these CBD products, you used it first. You were, I think that's the verifier of, so Cynthia's not on here really. I asked her on here not to talk about CBD to sell, but really because she's got an interesting story, and she became a distributor after using it. So she was like, I'm done with this stuff. Or tell us what happened. So you took the stuff for the migraines, you noticed it worked, and then what was the progression afterwards?
I keep saying, so that was my biggest thing. The migraines were huge. Similar with the arthritis. I broke my wrist when I was a kid really bad, and it'll flare up just by stirring
it's crazy.
Sauce. If you use your wrist too much, it flares up. It gets really bad. That has since disappeared. It doesn't happen. But I think really the seller for me was my mom started using it. She's had two knee surgeries, still has a ton of pain.
She's a nurse.
She started using the oil. she started using the topical cream, in between the oil. And when she couldn't walk upstairs without having pain, and we walked around a bridal show for 4 hours and she was fine, that to me was like, man, this stuff, if it's like, that's really working.
I mean, she still had a brace on, I think, underneath.
Well, yeah.
But, obviously, if you got something ripped or torn, it doesn't heal it.
Right.
Again, yeah.
Surgery is surgery.
Right. We're not saying CBD is the healer of all.
It's not the cure-all.
Right, exactly. But no, that was really it. When I saw that my mom was seeing benefits from it, I was like, okay, I have to tell as many people about CBD and what it can do for you as I can. And that's how I got started selling side.
So were you always involved in like holistic therapy? Have you always been like a holistic person when it comes to medicine?
No.
Okay.
No. I started looking into it more about 8 years ago now. My dad lost his battle with cancer. And, the holistic medicine wasn't huge. It just recently became a huge thing and more people are looking into it. And, we tried a few of those holistic medicine sides of helping with cancer to see if it would help with cancer. And I haven't really changed my life completely to go to the holistic side, but I'm definitely looking more into it now that I see how a plant is helping me feel better.
I think it's interesting to point out too that like the idea of Western medicine is typically, this is not all in all cases, but you have a symptom and you get either a pill or a surgery to treat the symptom, not to treat the cause. Like what's causing you to have whatever these things are. And then, and of course we were talking about this earlier too, then when you take that, you see even advertisement on television and they say, oh, take this to treat whatever it is problem you're having. And then they give you a litany of side effects, potential side effects. They have to tell you this stuff. And so what happens is you get in this cycle. I'm going to have a doctor friend of mine on in another month to talk about some of this stuff as well. But you get in this cycle of, hey, I have X problem and I took this pill to solve X problem. And then now I have two side effects that come from that. And then you go back to the doctor, and they just keep giving you either pills or then eventually...
I have literally seen a bowling ball bag full of pills. I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, as an EMT,
30 pills one person was on, and it was all for the fact that it was like, oh, well, the doc gave it to me. You don't have to do that. I mean... that hits on your point, I thought.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's insane amount going through your kidneys.
Well, I think as, I'm not a doctor, so I go to a doctor because I trust his opinion. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of get a huge misconception of what we can do for ourselves. Do a little research on...
They really don't study, though, the medicine. That's the pharmacist. You know what I mean? That everything, the pros, or not the pros, cons, but everything, that's a pharmacist. They just know the adverse effects.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think that's to another point too. They're not really even, and I'm not here to knock Western medicine. I have a lot of friends that are doctors, and like if you have a problem, obviously, go see your doctor. Right. But they don't really get trained a lot in talking to some of these guys, like, oh, we don't really have a lot of training in as a dietitian does, or as somebody who to talk about, hey, I've got high blood pressure. Oh, you got high blood pressure? Here's a pill. Why do you have the high blood pressure? Because you're eating massive amounts of sugar and lard every day, and that's the reason why you have high blood pressure. Yeah. So instead of saying, I'll knock American society a little bit. You kind of touched on it already. The people that you're picking up as an EMT or fireman are getting bigger and bigger. So you got to be stronger and stronger to do it, because we're in like a vicious cycle of people who are, a little bit lazy. We want these quick fix things. And instead of...
I think that's where we've been headed.
Yeah. Instead of like, hey, stop eating so many donuts every day. That'll reduce your blood pressure or reduce your cholesterol or whatever those things are. Now we'll just get a pill to kind of treat the symptom.
Aren't they trying to even tackle like drinks here in Ohio? They did in New York. Remember, the supersize is gone.
Yeah, right.
I think something just came out about it.
Right.
I don't know.
So now you're kind of looking into a little bit more holistic therapies, and I think that's important stuff. When you're taking a hemp oil or a CBD oil as a therapy or as a treatment for something, let's talk about the dosage a little bit. Like, there's some misconceptions about dosage too, because I've talked to some people who do take. So I've tried different brands, different gummies, different oils, and I'll talk to my friends about it, and they're like, "Oh, no, I got a 500 milligram bottle," and they think that they're taking 500 milligrams of CBD in that serving, and I'm going like, "Dude, you're not taking 500 milligrams. Tell us about that and some of those misconceptions." And while you do that, I'm going to take this. I'm going to put some under my tongue. Tell me, how do I do this?
Yeah, so sublingually that's how it's going to get in your system the
Fastest
quickest.
route.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm taking some CBD oil. The whole thing? What do I do here? I got this dropper. The whole dropper is what? How many milliliters?
The whole dropper is 1 serving, so about 20 drops. And the 500, it has 10 milligrams of CBD in 1 serving. So you'll get 10 milligrams from that dropper.
So this is like 5 milligrams right here, would you say?
I think, no, that is that's going to be the full serving right there.
Okay, so I'm taking 10 milligrams of CBD oil on the podcast, and we'll see if I get too loopy. We're going to prove it online if I get too loopy. If you hear me talking about pink elephants and stuff.
So he's taking, and then what is that, peppermint?
That one is a peppermint, yeah. So you put it on your tongue, you hold it there like 60 seconds. Most of the time it kind of just, it's a 98% absorption rate in the product that I'm with. It'll get into your system the quickest.
Sublingual is the fastest route. That's why we give stuff sublingually, like nitros and stuff, because it gets in your body instantly. So peppermint, that's one to, if you like it or not. I hope they come out with some more flavors.
I like it.
I do too.
I'm trying to hold it under my tongue and not talk.
Yeah, I like peppermint. But yeah, I think it's important because CBD, it exploded onto the scene within the last year, even 2 years really. And there are a lot of companies out there that we have 8,000 milligrams of CBD. Well, that's great, whatever you say on your bottle, but when you look at the ingredient label, and that's something really important too, a lot of these companies won't even show you their ingredient label online if you're looking at them. So again, do your research, look at what you're getting. But an 8,000 milligram bottle could only have 5 milligrams of a serving of CBD in it. And if it has 5 milligrams of CBD, but it's mixed with different oils, you can't even be sure that that's how much CBD you're actually getting.
So there's like they're cut with different oils, coconut oil or hemp oil or whatever, grapeseed oil.
Grapeseed oil, MCT oil. I mean, I've seen so many different things. That's what I like about the company I went with. There's literally 3 ingredients. It is the CBD oil, the hemp seed oil, and the flavoring. And that's it. And that's what it should be.
And it tastes pretty good.
I like it.
That's actually pretty good. I mean, I've had other brands, but that actually tastes good.
I'm up and down with it.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking the product. I'm just up and down with peppermint.
Yeah. Well,
I like peppermint.
I'm a peppermint person.
Yeah.
Yeah, peppermint's good.
So make it in Fireball? No.
That's called cinnamon, and yes, we do
They don't
that.
make it Jameson?
Yeah.
So the dosage is based on, like when you see something that says 500 milligrams or 1,000 milligrams, that's the concentration inside the oil, not the amount that is in the actual dropper that you have. Right? Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, I take 1,000 milligrams of CBD. I have 1,000 milligram bottle. No, the concentration that particular oil has a higher ratio of CBD in the oil than a 500 milligram or a 300 milligram or 250 or whatever. You're not getting that per serving. People have a misconception sometimes like, oh, I took 1,000 milligrams. Like, no, you didn't.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's definitely a way that some companies get people to spend more money.
Right.
Is we're going to slap 2,000 milligrams onto our bottle and sell it for 3 times the amount as a 500. And people think that they're getting more, so they're going to buy the higher product.
You were talking about vape pens, too, the other day. Now, I know, is it more cut back by vape pens. I don't know. Like they're making CBD for vape pens.
Yeah, right.
If I could say vape pens more. But anyway, like what were you saying? You're only getting a little bit compared to if it was actually under your tongue.
Yeah, same thing. Since it's cut with different ingredients, you're not actually getting as pure of an amount of CBD as you would if you were taking the oil.
And the vape pens, a lot of times, even if you're vaping and you have some THC in your vape pen, I'm not saying I've ever done that, but they have propylene glycol in them. And so that is when that propylene glycol heats up, it actually produces some materials that are considered carcinogens to our body. So propylene glycol is used in the food industry, and it's safe. If it's not heated up, we can ingest it, we can excrete it. It doesn't have any negative effects. But when it's heated up, so that substance vaporizes. When it vaporizes, it can turn into, and I don't remember the two substances off the top of my head, but one of them is formaldehyde. There you go. And the formaldehyde is a known carcinogen to your body. So you're putting that into your lungs. There's also been some concern about popcorn lung from people vaping, and they link that to propylene glycol. So you don't sell vape cartridges, right?
No.
This is all stuff that is edible or can be taken sublingually.
Correct.
Let's talk real quick about the legality of cannabis and the legality of CBD. This is from the Ohio State Board of Pharmacy. So the Ohio State Board of, so Ohio just recently became, you're allowed to use cannabis, THC, and CBD for treatments of particular symptoms, right? There's a list of like 20 some symptoms. If you're a UC sufferer, if you're an ulcerative colitis sufferer, you can go and get your medical card, right? There's like 20 symptoms that if you can prove you have these issues, you can go get your medical card. The Ohio State Board of Pharmacy has said that it is illegal for drugstores or gas stations to sell CBD. And the Ohio State Board of Pharmacy has issued a statement saying all CBD, even the stuff that is derived from hemp, is illegal in Ohio, except if produced by cultivators and sold through dispensaries licensed by the state. Is that correct? And is that something that concerns you? And how do you get around that? And we'll talk more about some other stuff too, because I there's a lot of this stuff I think is a lot of bullshit.
So how they can sell bath salts at the gas station,
right? Or how they can sell Fireball. Okay, yeah. or any type of alcohol. But anyways, let's talk about the CBD part of it first. So how do you get around that?
Okay, so in December 2018, there was actually a farm bill signed. The farm bill, I have it right here. Let's see.
I love that you brought research.
I did.
That's
I've
awesome.
been doing so much research on it because people don't know, so you have to educate people.
She does seminars every night. Well, not every, I don't know,
Once
lot.
a week,
like,
yeah.
She's on it for hours.
Yeah. So the farm bill that was signed in December, it says that hemp-derived anything from hemp, from the cannabis plant, as long as it's hemp-derived, it's completely legal. So, federal level, hemp-derived cannabis products are completely legal. Then you get down to the Ohio state level, and what you just read, the Ohio state law says, no, it's still illegal. So there's so much confusion about how can, at a federal level, they say it's completely legal, but at a state level, they say it's not. Still, so much confusion around it. However, there is an Ohio State Senate Bill, Senate Bill 57. It is in phase 2. It's in a committee right now. That bill is pushing to make hemp become off of the controlled substance 1, I think it is, to take that off of this list to make hemp-derived products legal. Now, every other state right now, it's already legal because of this farm bill. But there was something in Ohio, they kept it on the list. And again, I don't know how that's possible, how at a federal level it's legal, but at a state level it's not. So I'm really keeping an eye on this Senate bill, because this Senate bill, when it's passed, it will make the retail sale of hemp-derived CBD legal without needing a dispensary license.
And we should probably mention too, thanks for sharing that too, because that's awesome. I love that your fiance Corky came with some facts, man, with some real shit.
MBA at 22.
Boom. I think this is a big concern, because what you just read is actually the reverse of cannabis. So cannabis is a Schedule 1 federally. Schedule 1 says there's no medical use for it, that it doesn't have any medical properties. It can't be used to treat ailments or whatever. And federal law prohibits users. So Ohio passed its medical, you can use cannabis, THC, if you get a medical card and if you get it from a dispensary. You can't grow it on your own. You can't go to, your buddy Johnny down the street corner, or, your buddy who grows it at a farm and get it. You have to go and get it from a dispensary. But federal law prohibits cannabis users from possessing a gun or getting a CCW. But background checks conducted before Ohioans buy firearms or get concealed carry permits won't indicate whether or not someone is registered as a medical marijuana user. So there's all this confusion, because I've had a few people say, dude, you got UC.
I'm already lost.
Yeah, right.
I'm already lost.
Right. Well, I think a lot of people are, right? So people are like, dude, you have UC. Why don't you get your medical card and have someone prescribe it, and you can go to a dispensary and get, whether you want products with THC or whether you want products with CBD. However, if I did that, I would be breaking the Ohio law, which says you can't have a conceal and carry permit. However, the reverse of that is, because we are allowed by the Constitution to carry and the right to bear arms, so we were talking about this on Saturday a little bit I was talking about it with an attorney friend of mine, and he said, well, someone's going to probably challenge that. There's going to be someone who gets a medical card because we're saying this is medicine. This medicine treats a symptom or an ailment that I have. So now you're saying, because I get this medicine to treat the symptom, you cannot have a firearm. You cannot possess a firearm, and you cannot have your CCW, which is a constitutional amendment or a constitutional right as a citizen of the United States. So there's some real wacky laws happening in Ohio that kind of, the federal laws counteract the state laws, and the state laws counteract the federal laws. So there was some concern. I had ordered some CBD products, some gummies, not from Cynthia, but before we met, from another company. And I ordered some for my friend, because my friend's wife was very, because of her job, she was real sketchy. I don't want this stuff coming to my house because I don't want to get, am I going to get in trouble? And so, of course,
that taboo.
With a taboo. So I did some research. And again, this is not legal advice. If you want legal advice, people, go see your attorney, or go see, do your own research. But what I have found is that if it's illegal at a state or local level, it needs to be enforceable by a state or local authorities. And if you live in the Warren-Youngstown area, I can tell you, I don't think they're going to enforce that locally, because they've got other issues, like people who are on heroin or they're on opioids, or there's crimes associated because of those addiction issues.
Heroin's the biggest thing in this area. I think we're leading it. Last time I checked, we were leading it in epidemic is heroin. So people have said, in the past, I've talked to my cousins that live out of state, or people that, oh man, this area is really bad. There's a lot of,
so-and-so, my friend knows somebody who OD'd on heroin. You're like, your friend knows somebody? Like, I've gone to 5 or 6 funerals in the last 18 months.
When it was rampant there, a year and a half ago or a year ago?
Yeah.
Because of the fentanyl and everything? I was doing 3 a shift. Easily.
Right. And so 3 a shift, you're getting called out for people who are ODing,
Oh,
right?
yeah. I've treated a person on Friday, Narcaned them. And ODs aren't hard. They're really not hard to do. And people, I think, freak out more, and especially if the family's around. But I've fixed a person on Friday, and I've gone into work, say, 2 days later, and they're like, oh, yeah, we went back to this house. And I'm like, oh, what happened? They're like, oh, they're dead. It's like they go right back.
Right.
And I can't get into all that, but I'm just saying heroin.
Yeah. Well, this is like ground zero. People are like, oh, it's terrible. Like, we're in Trumbull County, Ohio. We're the second leading state. I think Monroe County is maybe, I might be getting my facts wrong. Where's our facts checker? Gio, where you been?
Yeah, I'm on the couch. I'm just the guy on the couch.
But anyways, we're ground zero for heroin. So for the opioid epidemic, the last thing I think the local authorities are worried about is someone taking a medicine, right? So we're going to have some other politicians on. We had Joe Schiavone on. We didn't get to talk about that, but we're going to talk about how do we get from a federal authority level, get THC, CBD, and the cannabis plant and the hemp plant all encompassed out of Schedule 1 so that they can do some research. And the research, because we really need to know, there's some concerns that THC can increase your chances of schizophrenia. There's all kind of different stuff. We don't know, but we do know anecdotally and sometimes from other countries doing the research that CBD and THC can alleviate certain symptoms. So run us through some of the symptoms that you know about, Cynthia, like some of the things that CBD is good for or could be good for.
Okay, I think the biggest one is anxiety, depression. I've seen some seizures, epilepsy, fibromyalgia. It can help you mood stability. That's a big one. I actually think it helps you to not be hungover. I go to conferences, firefighter conferences, and oh my gosh, those boys can drink, right? And
we work hard and we play hard.
Yeah. And here's me. I'm like, oh, I can keep up with them. I really can't. I'm 5'3", right? Like, I just can't handle it. And the last few conferences I've been to, take my dose at night before I go to bed, I wake up and I'm like, either I didn't have that much to drink or this is really doing something. So that could be one. Focus, inflammation, kidney function, cellular health, bone health, blood sugar reduction, that's a big one. Sleeplessness, traumatic stress, weight management. Some of the products that have THC in them, again, that small amount even, could help somebody who needs to gain weight. It could help them, their levels
stimulate
even
their
out.
appetite.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I think it can go on and on. There's just so much more research that could be done to see what we could use this for.
And you had mentioned THC. So there's been some suggestions and some studies. And I see, again, all the prodders out there in podcast world, go to PubMed, which is where the government publishes and the academics publish their research materials. Don't go to WebMD, okay? Go to PubMed where there's real data and real research. It may be difficult for some of us, including myself, to read because I'm not a doctor, but there's some great studies there. And those studies suggest that THC and CBD, a little bit of THC, not a lot, but THC works in synchronicity with CBD. It can actually enhance the therapeutic benefits of CBD. So years ago, I was working on a documentary about traumatic brain injury and PTSD among returning combat vets. I have not been diagnosed by a neurologist as having TBI, a traumatic brain injury, but I did, by a neurologist, take a pretest in the study of this film we were making because she had said, well, have you ever had any concussive injuries? And I said, well, I've been diagnosed by a doctor or at the hospital at least with 4 that I can recall. I played soccer as a kid. I boxed a little bit. I got in a couple of scrapes, a couple of street fights where I've got banged up, had accidents and things of that nature where I've actually been to the hospital and they said, yeah, you have a concussion. And so concussive injuries, if you don't recover from them and you go back and do the same thing, it's a progressive injury. So it can keep happening. So if you have a concussion today and you don't heal from it completely, in 3 weeks you get hit in the head again and you have another concussive injury, it's like a compounding effect.
I think you're supposed to get checked like in 5 years, like a head scan or something.
Yeah, right.
Just to see if there's any.
I probably should. I probably should.
Man, it is what it is.
You're like, oh, it's okay, right? And you played football, and so you get banged up or whatever, and so. Anyways, in doing these studies, there was a doctor in Israel who did studies about THC and CBD. This was years ago. I was doing this research, and he was able to do in vivo studies, not in vitro studies, where he was able to show CBD along with THC was a neuroregenerative. So some of these guys that suffered from PTSD and TBI were able to use cannabis to help neuroreconnectivity so that the electronic signals that are sent across our brains were able to be, it's almost like thinking about rewiring your brain. And a lot of times guys who suffer from TBI or PTSD are trying to self-medicate and they don't even know what the reasons are. So sometimes I was using THC or I was using cannabis, and I think that's probably the reason why I was, along with maybe it was it helped me alleviate symptoms from UC. Now that I've been experimenting with CBD, I don't really feel the need or as much of a need. Yeah, it's still fun, from that kind of standpoint. But I don't really feel the need or the desire to use THC or to use cannabis that has THC as much as I did in the past, because I think whatever I'm getting in the CBD is what my body was after anyways. I find that kind of interesting. I find it interesting the list that you had talked about in saying it can help with some of these issues because specifically, people are out there getting Prozac and Zoloft, and you had mentioned like sleep using as a sleep aid. Ambien is one of those things that like there's been people. Remember Roseanne Barr had some crazy Twitter rant, and she was like, I was on Ambien. And you guys ever take Ambien? Have you ever taken it?
I've never taken Ambien.
So I took Ambien one time. I took a half of an Ambien one time with a glass of wine. It was like being on it was fucking crazy, okay? I couldn't remember the next day what I had done that night. And I had a conversation. I was at home. I was actually living at home at the time with my parents. It was right after college. I had just graduated. And I had a conversation with my mom, and I don't even remember it.
Yeah.
Literally one glass of wine and a half of Ambien, okay? And I've been able to, I can't hold my own with the firemen anymore, Cynthia, but there was a time in my life I could hold my own.
The O'Donnell days?
Yeah, and right.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, right. And that was, that was during that time period.
Come on, Christian Reinhardt. Bring that baby back down to Warren.
So there's a lot of potential with CBD. I want to talk about one other thing, which is, can animals benefit from CBD? Tell me about that.
They can. The company that I work with actually has an oil specifically made for animals. It's bacon flavor. They love it. They have the oil and dog treats, and it has a serving of CBD oil in the treats. So one of the things that we noticed with our boxer is separation anxiety. And
they're high strung.
Yeah.
I have raised purebred boxers. They're my favorite. And before I got it, I researched them. High anxiety. So if anyone has high anxiety, and again, when she came back with this, let's do, try some CBD oil. Here's the taboo, the mumbo jumbo in my head. I'm like, all right, it was kind of like, just try it. Okay. So.
Yeah, it worked for me. I think you've kind of mentioned before, it's kind of hard to describe how you feel. When Cork told me, you don't go straight to the ceiling anymore, I knew it was working, right? Like, if he's noticing it in me, then it's working.
Cynthia's Italian and Mexican. I'm going to lose this battle. I'm going to lose the battle.
So what about the dog, though? So you gave it to your boxer? What happened with the boxer?
Yeah, so I said, you know what? If this is working for me, let's see if it's going to work for him. We give him a dose in the morning and at night. He's big. He's 85 pounds. So we're giving him the full spectrum oil. And I think it is really helping him. The other night we had a storm, that tornado warning, it was like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Usually when he hears thunder, he is right under your feet. He doesn't want to lose sight of you. He gets scared.
Fireworks. You know, when Harding scores a touchdown, because I don't live too far from Harding High School, bam, it goes off, and he is on your lap.
Yeah, any big, loud noises like that, he's scared.
But if anyone else out there, he's a killer. He's a killer. Don't come to my door.
He's a really good protector. He really is. But no, and I was watching him, waiting for him to, run over to me and come find me, and he was like playing with his toy, flipping it around. It's like he didn't even know it was happening. So there's definitely, it's definitely working for him too. And I've noticed, he has really bad allergies too, and we were paying massive amounts of money.
I took him to that Akron, we had to figure out what he was allergic to. And I took him to the Akron, it's like the Cleveland Clinic for dogs. And, I paid that sick amount of money. They found, he's got an allergy to this. Okay, what can we do to figure it out? So do we give him a shot? I was doing one pill every now and then. And dog medicine is different than human medicine, and I don't know, we started giving him the CBD.
Still costs the same, though.
Yeah, we've given him the CBD, and it's definitely helped. He licks his paws. That's how you can tell, the redness in their ears and in their paws if they're allergic to something. And then they lick to where there's no fur.
No fur, right?
Yeah. So,
similar to when I said if I feel a headache coming on, I put that pain relief on. If I see him licking at his paws, I put the relief cream on his paws and he stops.
That's awesome. Yeah.
There's got to be something to it.
Well, so I have a 13, we don't know how old she is. We've had her for about 12 or 13 years. Rabbits usually live about 6 to 10. We had another rabbit before, but that's a whole nother story. So we have a rabbit. She's litter trained. She's house trained. She's really cool. But she's old. She's 13 or 14. The oldest living rabbit they have, we're trying to get her to the Guinness Book of World Records because the oldest living rabbit that they have, house rabbit, I think is 14 or 15. So my wife and I keep saying she's going to make it to the Guinness.
It's house trained. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, she goes in the litter box. It's pretty cool. So we don't have her out in the house running around while we're not home because they do like to dig and they like to bite and she'll destroy shit. I mean, I've lost speaker wires and carpet and all kind of stuff. But she was very, very active when she was younger. Run around. Rabbits do this thing called binking where they jump up in the air and they kick their heels up. That's how they know they're happy. And she runs around your feet and she gets real excited. And she had slowed down doing that probably in the last 3 or 4 years. We noticed she's not as big as she was. She's getting a little older. She doesn't have as much muscle tone as she did in the past. And she just doesn't do the things that she doesn't. Well, she's getting older.
Sounds like humans.
Right.
Yeah.
So I gave my rabbit, she doesn't like bacon. I don't have the bacon flavored stuff, but I had edibles, edible CBD. I took the, broke a little piece off for her because she only weighs 6-7 pounds. I broke a little piece off her, a little gummy, and I give it to her. And I watched her, and I had her out, and we had her running around. And the next day, I did the same thing. Gave her another. On day 3, she was binking and jumping and hopping. She hadn't been able to jump on the couch. She's able to jump on the couch again. So I think it alleviated, just like dogs get hip dysplasia or they get hip, they have hip
aches and pains.
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest.
I think and now when she hears the cupboard door open, she'll be if she's in her cage, she does this thing where she puts her little mouth on the cage and she starts shaking the cage back and forth to let me know, hey, dude, am I getting my dose today? Am I getting my CBD too? And she loves it, man. She knows it's coming and she gets it. And yeah, I think there's something to it. I think it's interesting. I think you should come on again. We should talk more about CBD and THC. But I think our listeners out there in podcast world, we hope you got a little bit of education today and that you at least think about the possibility of holistic medicine and the possibility that maybe CBD is something that you can take for your aches and pains. If someone wants to get a hold of you, Cynthia, and talk to you, how do they do that?
They can get on Facebook. It's Facebook World. They can contact me on Facebook. I think you will post a link to my website. You can even post my information on this podcast if you want. That's fine. Yeah.
Can I give them your email address?
Yeah, that's fine.
So it's Cynthia C. Frazier. I'll put a link on Facebook and I'll put a link on our website. Cynthia C. Frazier 22 at Gmail. And you have a website. And it's sensationalcbd.com. I love that. Sensational, CYNSATIONAL-CBD.com. And I'm assuming your web or your email there's a link there to your email on their website?
Yes.
Okay, so, and it's Cynthia Frazier on Facebook for those of you who are out of state or out of the area. Reach out to her if you have questions, and she can share with you the company that she works for, and she can help you maybe pick a product that can alleviate some of your issues if you have them. Did I cover everything? Do we want to say anything else or talk?
Still see a
else?
doctor if you need it. You know?
Yeah, none of us are medical professionals. Well, technically you're an EMT, but none of us are MDs or doctors here.
I finished medic school and all that. It just is what it is. But I always believe in medicine. It helps, but I also think this can maybe.
I think the two can work in conjunction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I still get my UC treatment. I get a biologic every
work in conjunction.
Yeah, they can work together. Yeah,
I agree.
I think honestly, there's so much research that could be done. There's so many things that you can read about what CBD is and how it could help you. I think the most important thing though is make sure you know what's in your oil. Make sure again, 3 ingredients. It is a plant. You should only see a plant oil on your ingredient list. If you're seeing, I've seen some with 15 other ingredients, maybe shy away from those. Maybe do a little bit more research on a different company to see, what you're actually getting. Third-party testing is really big. See if they're actually testing for what's in the oil, the ingredients in the oil. And the company I work for actually is, it's a certified company with the U.S. Hemp Authority, and only 13 companies have that approval. So that's another big thing to look forward to.
So not all CBD products are made the same, people. Right. Cynthia, Corky, thank you guys for coming on the podcast today. It's been super educational.
This is awesome, man.
I know you guys it's been educational for I always say viewers, for our listeners out there in podcast world. Will you guys come on again?
I would love to,
absolutely.
But I don't know what I can contribute. I'm just a side guy.
Hopefully the next time we're on this Senate Bill 57, Ohio, get out there and support this bill because that's going to change a lot.
Yeah, you know what? Let's do that. After this thing goes and they vote on it, let's set up another one. And for your voters out there, talk to your local representatives, your senators, and your House state representatives if you're all for holistic medicine, and talk to them about Senate Bill 57 and make sure you have them try to support that, because we think it's super important, especially for those who are suffering from chronic conditions. Thanks, guys, for coming on today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
It's a great thing. We were glad you had a podcast started.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to have you guys on. It's fantastic. We will hear from them again in the future and talk about Senate Bill 57 and some other stuff. We didn't get to mushrooms today, but we'll talk about that maybe on the next one. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, keep on prodding and stay electrified. We hope you learned a lot today sitting down with Cynthia and Corky and myself. I was very excited for this episode to happen. I'm glad that it did. And now I can't wait to have her on again, because we just really scratched the surface. We talked about it afterwards, just kind of scratching the surface about these different topics that come up about being having a holistic healthcare program, different ways to treat chronic problems, chronic health issues. I think the more we do research and the more we find out about ourselves, because everybody's body is different. Remember that. We're all unique individual butterflies. What works for us may not work for you. Okay? Some people are allergic to water. Don't believe me? Look it up. So, really hope you had a great listen today. If you did, please share the podcast on your favorite podcast app. You could find us on an iPhone app. You can find us on a Galaxy app. You can find us pretty much anywhere. Go to your podcast app, search Jim Fogarty, Fogarty, the Prodcast. And please subscribe and please share. And if you can't find us there and you're looking and you don't remember all this stuff, go to theprodcast.net. Theprodcast.net. You'll have a whole list of all our episodes. Send some friends there. Like us on Facebook. And if you like what you see, thank Brandon Giovanni at MDI Studios for putting that website together. And also, Two Ticks and the Dog Productions. We like to produce television, radio, digital display, on-screen cinema advertising. We do a whole host of things. We put a whole package together for you. If you need a website, MDI Studios could help you out as well. So, hope to see you on the next episode. We got some great guests coming up. I'll give you a preview, but you got to go to our Prodcast Facebook page, and I'll give you some updates as to who we're having on in the very, very near future. Artists, activists, politicians. We've got some great guests coming up. If you want to know who they are, go to our Prodcast Facebook page. Search The Prodcast on Facebook. And we like to update people. And if you have questions for upcoming guests, we post a little bit ahead of the show. Hey, we got so-and-so coming on. If you want to ask some questions, feel free to plug those questions in and we'll put those questions to them for you as prodders. Hey, until that time, until the next show, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for sharing. We really appreciate if you're a return listener that you came back. We really hope that you like this episode if it's your first one, and we hope you keep on listening. Until then, keep on prodding and stay electrified.